Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Berlin, Germany, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host Raghunath and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Germany. And Kaustubha is in the outskirts of Germany, staying at the ashram of Satchidananda Maharaj, one of our dear teachers. And he has just been a stellar pillar in our spiritual lives for at least 35 years. And we had this incredible get together last night. I want to give a shout out to everybody in Hamburg who came down. It was like a Zoom party there. We had Tomas was there, and Tina Scheid was there, and Saskia was there, and Nicole was there, and Bunky Bhakti Justin was there, and who am I missing? Henrik was there, and I know I'm forgetting somebody. Am I forgetting somebody? You don't know you weren't there. Anyway, and now we have Hannah and Bon and Nadine here, and it's been great. It's been great. It's great to hang out with these everybody's dedicated to their spiritual life, and when you find people like that, it makes a place like Hamburg, which is like it's sort of a rough place. It makes it like a transcendental place. When you go to these places and you meet great souls, you feel like this is a great place. And now I find that's true. You know, like when I go to Mumbai, we see Radhanath Swami. We see all the great devotees of Radhanath Swami. But what happens is, you know, people will say, why do you go to Bombay? Bombay's so dirty, or Bombay has crime, or Bombay has whatever. And to me, I think of Bombay, I think, oh, Bombay is like the spiritual world. So that is that's the difference. You get what you're sort of looking for. And I found these people in my life, and they lift up the spirits. So yeah, I'm grateful. How are you doing this morning, Kaustubha?
Well, it's been great. I've been with you most of it, but now we're separated. But we'll see you again later today. But it's wonderful to be here. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm such an interrupter. Okay, ladies, you got to stop talking.
No,
Go back.
No problem.
Stop talking. Who are these? What do they think they're doing? This is like a professional show going on here, and you guys are talking about crumpets. Last night we had this really great get together, and it's really interesting how time works, because Gadadhar Prabhu, who was there, they're our friends as brahmacharis. There was a bunch of brahmacharis from Germany that traveled around in a giant bus, that they've converted the bus. They took out all the seats, they took out everything, turned it into a temple on wheels, and airbrushed it like 1970s style, airbrushed on the side to make it look like the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And on the side of the bus, it said the spiritual skyliner. And it was the coolest thing ever. And they'd come to our shows. I didn't realize this until yesterday, but they went to all the shows of any band that was slightly interested in bhakti, and they would cater it, and they have a book table and do kirtan. So they just said they traveled with Boy George for many, many months. And so they used to come to all the shelter shows. As a matter of fact, we did a shelter video.
This was a long time ago. You had to put it into context here. This was the early 90s.
So Gadadhar, who was one of the key players there, we were all monks. He ended up, the last time I saw him was 2020. That's 21 years ago. And he was married at that time. I met his wife, who I met 20 years ago. And he's become like, he's one of these, he's a scientist, like a spiritual scientist, like a full on, I can't even understand anything coming out of his mouth scientist, one of those guys. He's got to shift it in low gear and speak to me like I'm a chimpanzee just for me to understand anything that's coming out of his mouth. And he's so impressive in what he does. And he's got this huge operation. He builds these things. I can't even explain what he does, Kaustubha. Do you want to explain it? We got to get him.
I don't understand it myself, but he's tapped into some kind of subtle energies. But he doesn't talk about these things in vague terminology. He can talk about them in like really precise scientific terminology, and he's created inventions that are like healing for people and
healings that doctors around the world use. Yeah, it's quite impressive. And also 2 other brahmacharis that I haven't seen since 1992 that we were very intimately close with. They showed up, Tattva and Dal Sindhu, and it blew my mind. It blows my mind to see people still focused on their spiritual path, which is now, do the math,
30-some years later.
30 years later. And it was almost like a Rip Van Winkle. You fell asleep, you wake back up, everything's changed, but here are these people, like they're still there, they're still practicing. It's incredibly inspiring, actually. And I feel fortunate to have these people in my life.
Me too.
Can I, before we get serious?
Yeah, we got some announcements we should make too, but just throwing that out there.
Okay, I'm gonna throw a spoke in your wheel, my friend. I was driving up here yesterday with Nicole, and Nicole has a little car with a stripe on it. And I'm gonna just share, if you don't mind. And I want to hear you, as a devotee that I respect, some feedback.
Okay.
And it may sound completely silly and stupid, and maybe some people out there can relate with me, but I want Kaustubha's feedback. It sounds so stupid just to say it. I want a car that has a stripe on it. Is that so bad? I want a stripe on my car. Does that sound crazy? It sounds crazy to say it.
It's
a car with a stripe on it.
It's an unusual desire, but I don't think it's too destructive to your spiritual life. So go ahead. But don't buy a new car. Just paint a stripe on the one that you've got.
I want a car to make me feel like I'm driving a race car. Is that such a evil material desire? And that's some people are just laughing at me right now, but it sounds stupid. And it may be a reason why I like that Ford Raptor, because it's got a big stripe down the front of the pickup truck. I know they're material desires. I want a stripe.
It's okay.
There's worse things I can desire, right?
There are definitely worse things.
Okay, Zoomers, you can write comments if I'm evil or not. You can put that up on the board, please. Some of you guys think this is ridiculous. Now I found out who this guy really is. He's one of these car guys. I just like stripes. That's a big deal.
You do have a car thing, Raghunath. I've noticed that. You're into cars.
I have a little bit of a car thing, and I try to justify it, but it's one of my material shortcomings. I like stripes on vehicles, and Nicole's got one on hers, and I was like, this is unfair. Why can't I get a stripe?
Okay.
Anyway, that's sort of where I'm at today, and I just wanted to run that by you and just give me your blessing.
I think it's okay. You can get a stripe, but let's stop talking about it. Is that okay?
Thanks. People are giving me feedback right now. I'm going to check the board, but Kaustubha, why don't you start talking? I'm just going to read people's comments.
Okay. Let's get down to some practical announcements. First thing is the Sage page will come out today, hopefully. I'm a little busy, but we're going to try to get out the Sage page. So if you want to sign up for our newsletter, the Sage page, you go to wisdomofthesages.com, and right up front a thing comes up and you can sign up for that. And there we'll share the schedule, but we'll share that schedule with you right now too. We're here at this time, 5 a.m. Eastern time, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday this week. Thursday, Raghunath and I are traveling, so we're not going to do the show Thursday and Friday, and then we'll be back at the regular time of 8 a.m. Eastern time for Saturday and Sunday.
By the way, Kaustubha, I'm getting lots of positive feedback on stripes. I guess we're all materialistic. Welcome to the dented cans. I'm getting thumbs up with stripes.
Okay. Another thing I want to mention is that, we're beginning these discussion groups, these reading/discussion groups that are part of a whole larger kind of bhakti support system that we're creating. About, about 100 or more than 100 people have written in. But what we're doing is once you write in and say, hey, I want to be part of one of those groups, then we send you a survey, and that survey kind of gives you more information, and then you have to respond to the survey. We've extended the time to respond to that survey to this Friday, and then we're going to shut it off for 3 months, and we're going to kind of like work with that first group of people. And I think about 70 have already like confirmed, so it's getting a little tight now. If you want to be part of this, at least in the first incarnation this year, then please get back to us by Friday. Write into us at wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. Right, I'm interested in the reading groups. We'll send you the survey. Get that survey back to us by Friday, and hopefully, you can still make it in and squeeze in time. But I think that's going to be, for all the people out there. So many people listen to the podcast. They have an interest in it. They learn something from it. They gain something. They're entertained by it. That's great. But if you want to practice bhakti, this is fit everybody in. Okay. Are you there, Raghu? You look a little frozen to me.
Here. Am I a little frozen? I think we went through a low.
Okay, you're better now. Okay.
Driving.
All right. Shall we dive in?
Yeah, let's dive in.
Okay. Chant our mantras, Raghunath.
Ayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narotamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudiraye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the Supreme Lord Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshva badreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance and classes in the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart will become eradicated, and loving service to the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, will be established as an irrevocable fact. Om Gyana Tamarandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksurun Midatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my teachers are opening my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances at their lotus-like feet. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 3. We've got a new, not Chapter 3, Canto 3.
Canto 3.
Chapter
24.
Chapter 24. We have a whole new chapter today.
We do?
Yeah. And
are you going to read, or shall I read?
If you feel like I'm qualified to read today, I can read.
I think you're qualified. I'm just worried if your connection is going to be strong, but
I can't. I'm trying to get into my computer. Hold on a second. They locked me out. Let me say the name of the chapter.
Well, why don't I go ahead and you go ahead and look for it, and I'll just give a little summary here. So this we're in this the rest of the third canto, and there's still a lot of chapters left. It's going to focus on a conversation. In Sanskrit, we use this word samvad, this important conversation between two people. And those two people are this yogini named Devahuti, and the person who hasn't entered the picture yet, but it's an incarnation of Vishnu, her son, which will be Kapila Dev, Sri Kapila Dev. And so they're going to have a conversation where she's asking her own son questions about yoga, and particularly about bhakti yoga. The instructions in those chapters are so rich, they're so brilliant, they're so helpful. They really lay out so much clarity, And so the chapters we've been reading have been building up to that. We read about how Kardama Muni was doing yoga out in the forest for so many years, right? Gaining deep realizations. Ultimately had a vision of Lord Vishnu. Lord Vishnu kind of spoke to him and blessed him. And then Swayambhuva Manu, who was like, whereas Kardama Muni was this like sage out in the forest, yogi meditating on the forest with nothing, no possessions, alone in the cave. The king, like practically, right, Swayambhuva Manu, this powerful ruler, came to him with his daughter. His daughter Devahuti had heard of Kardama, had fallen in love with him just by what she heard. She was impressed with his yoga qualities, and she wanted to marry him. And so Devahuti was brought, their marriage was arranged. they've now, a large part of this purpose is fine, but these are these early people in this kind of cycle, universal cycle. And he had the responsibility of populating, the universe. And so bringing these two together was about that. So there could be some good people in the world. And now they've had their adventure. That first, and this was really important, first Devahuti served, this great yogi with such self-surrender, free from she any lower qualities she let go of, and she served with full surrender. And we learned that had a lot to do with like the mood that a disciple serves a guru with. And then she she was so austere in how she was serving that she kind of just I don't know how to describe it, right? But she shriveled up a little bit, right? Her natural beauty was kind of covered by all of that. You there, Raghu?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay, yeah. And then with his mystic yogic power, he kind of like gave her a whole mystic makeover.
Yes.
She went in under the water, and all these maidens were like, beautifying her and everything. And then they had their adventures flying around the universe, and she eventually had 9 daughters. I think we're going to hear a little bit about those daughters in this chapter. And this is where we're picking up. He's about to move on now, which was always the agreement. And her son, Kapila Dev, will take care of her for the rest of her life. So that's kind of where we're starting here, the renunciation Kardama Muni. Now that they've had their beautiful, successful, adventurous marriage, he's about to move on.
Okay, so this is, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, text 1. Recalling the words of Lord Vishnu, the merciful sage Kardama replied as follows to Swayambhuva Manu's praiseworthy daughter Devahuti, who was speaking words full of renunciation. The sage said, "Do not be disappointed with yourself, O princess. You are actually praiseworthy. The infallible personality of Godhead will shortly enter your womb as your son. You have undertaken..."
He had the ability to just predict that stuff, right?
Yeah. Knew it. The sage said, "Do not be disappointed." Okay. Yeah. You have undertaken sacred vows. Text 3. God will bless you. Hence you should worship the Lord with great faith through sensory control, religious observances, right? All these rules of the
dharmic
penance you have to do, austerities, and gifts of your money and charity. It's part of our dharma too. You have some money, you purify your wealth by giving some of your money away to someone who's going to do something worthy with it. It's not just, you don't just give it away, although that's something too. You just give it away. You want somebody who's going to do something worthy with it. So that's part of dharma, or cleansing wealth. The personality of God.
Yeah, hold it. Let's look at this a little bit. Let's look at this a little bit. So she's a yogi, right? A yogini. And he's giving her some instructions, right? You've undertaken sacred vows. This is what, this is a large part of yoga practice right there, right? Where you set an intention, right? And then he talks about worship, but this kind of worship isn't the worship that's just like, I'm part of this religion and therefore I'm saved kind of idea. But the worship has a lot to do with your own sense of yogic self-control, as well as how you treat other people, right? How you see other people, how you sacrifice for other people. So he mentions 4 things. One is sensory control, right? That I'm not going to be ruled by my senses. And the second one is religious observances, or you could say dharmic observances, right? Which sounds like it probably has a lot to do with ritual, maybe ritual and etiquette that you follow in life.
Yeah.
Right. And that's all of that is yogic too, right? It has to do with how it shapes your mind, how you do external things, whether it's like doing something like, say, puja every morning, right? Like where you do like some kind of worship ritual, ringing a bell and offering incense and offering, nice ingredients in front of a form that you're meditating on. All of that, you're doing something external, but it's having an internal effect on you. Or religious observances could be things like, say, how you treat your elders, how you raise your family, being a good husband, being a good wife, things like that, right? It all involves self-surrender, but it all involves shaping the mind, like making you a better person. So sensory control, religious observances, austerities, right? Which it's kind of closely connected with sense control. And then the last one that he says, giving gifts of your money in charity, right? In other words, sacrificing something, feeling some compassion for other people, is an important part of it too. So something for us all to consider, right? If we actually want to practice yoga, here's some really good instructions for it. This is how yogis think, right? It's not just the twisting and the bending, but it's so much more about how you live.
And this is a great time to mention that Wisdom of the Sages is a community-sponsored, supported podcast. Just kidding. And I'm not completely not as well. Okay, shall we continue?
Yes.
The personality of Godhead being worshipped by you will spread my name and fame. You will vanquish the knot of your heart by becoming your son and teaching knowledge of Brahman. So the knot in the heart is the knot that ties the spirit self to the material body and the material identity. We have a material identity. We can't escape that. I have kids. I am a son. I'm an Italian-American New Yorker. That is a partial truth. It's not a whole truth. As a matter of fact, it's a thin slice of the pie in the big picture of my reality. Out of illusion, I think it's the big reality. I think that, well, that's what I am. I am this Italian-American New Yorker. I am a yoga teacher. I am a dad. I am. Get in balance, Raghu. This is one thin slice of the pie. It's one page. Remember in the old days when you go to before smartphones, when you have to go to get a gigantic dictionary at the library, and it's on a stand, a gigantic unabridged dictionary, and there's thousands of rice paper pages that you have to go through. Remember those?
I do.
Our life as Raghunath, the yoga teacher, guy, punk singer, that is like one thin page pulled out. And there's thousands of other false identities. And that false, when I say false, I mean temporary identities we've had that we were absolutely convinced this is me. This is my family. This is my father. This is my mother. These are my children. And to the degree of reality, which the Bhagavatam is always as peace, this temporary world. Because this world reminds us on a regular basis, you can't keep anything here. You can't own anything here. You don't own your health. You don't own your beauty. You don't own your strength. You don't own your house. You might think you own your house. You're just gonna, how many people have lived in your house before you? Have given birth in your house or died in that house? We own nothing in this world. We come in with nothing. We leave with nothing. The world is going to remind you that. The Bhagavatam is going to remind you in a beautiful way. It's going to this is the absolute truth it's going to say. And so therefore, we lovingly offer it back. So what does he say in this verse? The person I've got it being worshipped by you will spread my name and fame, and he will vanquish your child, who's the avatar, will vanquish the knot of the heart by becoming your son and teaching you knowledge of Brahman.
Yeah. Srila Prabhupada mentions here, he says, matter and spirit. So the body and the soul are knotted by false ego, right? That there's an element, there's an influence in the material realm called false ego or ahankara. And it ties the two together, just like you're saying, right? I begin to identify with something that I'm not. And it's spiritual knowledge that vanquishes the knot in the heart. You have to reflect on it. You have to think about it. You have to discuss it every day.
And you have to discuss it because Maya or illusion is so strong, so incredibly strong. It's like a riptide that is just sucking us out to sea, and we don't even realize it. When you get in a riptide, ever do that? Get in a riptide, and you're like, hey, everybody. And all of a sudden, you're like out in the middle of the ocean. It drags you away like in an insidious way where it's not even noticed, huh? I was thinking to the degree that I identify the body with the self, my stuff as the self. I mean, this is like the biggest problems in the world, I say. Even in a simple way. What the hell was that? It was Healy. They put Healy on my head. We're not going to tell you what that is right now, but Healy was on my head this whole time. I was just remembering junior high school. You remember that? Like sort of like elementary school for me was like nothing. It was like playland. As soon as I hit junior high school, you are your jeans. You are your sneakers. If you have I was from a poor family. We didn't have so much money. So I didn't have the right sneakers. I didn't have the right jeans. And I was mocked because of it until I learned, oh my God, I'm going to be judged according to how I dress. It was so humiliating and confronting for a 7th grader to have to go through that. But we extend our identity to our fashion, to my purse, to my eyelashes, to my hair. When a man loses their hair, we always joke about this. It's almost like they're losing their identity. Men lose their mind when they lose their hair, because sometimes you have a very beautiful hair and all of a sudden you lost your hair. Google up men's hair loss, billions of clicks. So if you really understand this point, it can relieve you from so much pain in the material world. It is actually not me that I'm losing. The real me, the real investment is my spirit soul. That's why we're listening to the Bhagavatam on a regular basis. It's that reminder.
Okay, Raghunath. You look like you're wearing yourself out a little bit here. Take a breath. We're doing good.
I'm getting ready for this podcast.
Okay. All right. Is that podcast? I assume it'll all be in English. So maybe something you could share with us once it's posted.
Okay, I'll put it up. For sure.
All right. Shall we continue?
Yes. Pretty interesting, huh? She had a baby that was God.
She's about to.
Gotcha. You have taken sacred vows. God will bless you. Okay. Okay. Sri Maitreya said, now Maitreya is the narrator. Devahuti was fully faithful and respectful towards the direction of her husband, Kardama, who was one of the Prajapati, or generators of human beings in the universe. I tell you, I'm going to ask God about this, even since he's on the earth. It's like the idea of a progenitor of a species. Is that I find this hard. Like, are there other beings from other planets being born into on our planet? Are they all getting born on our planet? That's what I want to know. Are we descendants of aliens? Are we descendants?
You know, Raghu, you're coming in really choppy now. So I don't know what to say. If you guys find a good place, maybe you ought to settle down there.
Or their original human beings giving birth. Anyway, this. Okay.
I'm
Kaustubha.
Can you hear me, Raghu?
I can hear you perfectly.
You're coming in super choppy. And so let me read the next few verses, and let's see if you can get settled into. Let's see if you can get settled in a place that's better. I don't know. Let's see. Go ahead and Go ahead and read the next verse.
You read.
Okay. Text number 5. I don't know if you finished that one. So Maitreya, the narrator, says, Devahuti was fully faithful and respectful toward the direction of her husband, Kardama.
Towards respectful.
Raghunath, you got to get in a better place. Because that's not, yeah.
Devahuti was fully faithful and respectful towards the direction of her husband, Kardama, who was one of the Prajapatis, or generators of human beings in the universe. O great sage, she thus began to worship the master of the universe, the personality of Godhead, who is situated in everyone's heart. X6. After many, many years, the personality of Godhead, Madhusudana, or the Madhudana, having entered the semen of Kardama, appeared in Devahuti, just as fire comes from wood with sacrifice. At the time of his descent on earth, the demigods, in the form of raining clouds, sounded musical instruments in the sky. The celestial musicians, the Gandharvas, sang the glories of the Lord, while celestial dancing girls, known as apsaras, danced in joyful ecstasy. So these are different species of humans.
Raghunath, the connection sounds good, but the sound quality sounds really bad. Maybe your microphone is getting knocked around or something like that. Maybe you gotta...
Oh, that was it. My microphone fell. How's this?
Better.
I apologize. Okay, I apologize, everybody. This is so unprofessional. Okay. Okay. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, let's try again. Brahma, the firstborn living being, went along with Marichi. Text 8. At that time, Lord's appearance, the demigods flying freely in the sky showered flowers in all directions. All the waters and everyone's mind became very satisfied. Brahma, the firstborn living being, went along with Marichi and other sages to the place of Kardama's hermitage, which was surrounded by the river Saraswati. Maitreya continued, O killer of the enemy, the unborn Lord Brahma, right? They call him unborn because he wasn't born from a mother. He was born of a lotus. The unborn Lord Brahma, who is almost independent in acquiring knowledge, right? He's almost independent, could understand that a portion of the personality of Godhead in his quality of pure existence had appeared in the womb of Devahuti just to explain the complete state of knowledge known as Samkhya Yoga. After worshiping the Supreme Lord with glad incenses and a pure heart for his intended activities as an incarnation, Brahma spoke as follows to Kardama and Devahuti. So now we're going to hear from the man himself, Lord Brahma.
Raghunath, just the sound is still really rough. Maybe if you held the microphone instead of hanging it on your shirt, held it a little closer to your mouth, maybe. I'm not sure.
All right. How about now?
Yeah, I think that's better.
Lord Brahma said, My dear son, since you have completely accepted my instructions without duplicity, showing them proper respect, you have worshipped me properly. Whatever instructions you took from me, you have carried out. Thereby you have honored me. Sons ought to render service to their father exactly to this extent. One should obey the command of his father or spiritual master with due deference, saying, Yes, sir. I want my kids to do that. Yes, sir. Yes, father. Yes, father. Right away, father. Lord Brahma then praised Kardama Muni's 9 daughters, saying, All your thin-waisted daughters are certainly very chaste. I am sure this will increase this creation by their own descendants in various ways. Therefore, today, please give away your daughters to the foremost sages with due regard for the girls' temperaments and likings, and thereby spread your fame all over the universe. O Kardama, I know that the original personality of Godhead has now appeared as an incarnation by his internal energy. He is the bestower of all that is desired by the living entities, and he has now assumed the body of Kapila Muni. By mystic yoga and practical application of knowledge from the scriptures, Kapila Muni, who is characterized by his golden hair, is blonde, his eyes just like lotus petals, and his lotus feet, which bear the marks of the lotus flowers, will uproot the deep-rooted desire for work in this material world. Desire for work. Christina, you with me?
Yeah, let's read this again. Again, your connection's been a little choppy, so why don't I read this verse again? And here we're hearing for the first time a description of a new avatar, right? A new appearance of Lord Vishnu. So this is Lord Brahma speaking. He's saying, by mystic yoga and the practical application of knowledge from the scriptures, Kapila Muni, this is going to be the new avatar that's going to appear, who is characterized by his golden hair, His eyes, just like lotus petals, and his lotus feet, which bear the marks of lotus flowers, will uproot the deep-rooted desire for work in this material world. And by work, it means the idea that when I look at this world, I think, let me work for my own enjoyment, right? Let me put in the effort to get material enjoyment in life. That's what it's speaking about. That if I work a certain way, the word is karma. So, by putting in a certain effort, a certain result will come back for me to enjoy. And the idea is that he's going to teach Samkhya. He's going to teach this way of looking at the world with a different philosophy that's so clear that it uproots one gets it, right? Oh, that actually doesn't bring happiness. The idea that my happiness comes through external things, it doesn't add up. And so he's going to teach this so clearly that it'll help people understand that. So let's look at the commentary. You ready?
Sure. This is 17 you want to do? Or?
Yeah. Why don't I read it, because I just think I'm coming in clearer right now. And you can share your thoughts as we go. In this verse, the activities and bodily features of Kapila Muni are nicely described. The activities of Kapila Muni are forecast herein. He will present the philosophy of Samkhya in such a way that by studying his philosophy, people will be able to uproot the deep-rooted desire for karma, or fruitive activities. So this philosophy called Samkhya is something that, it's lesser known in yoga, in like, say, Western yoga circles than it probably should be, but it's a type of analysis, right? Do you know what literally the word Samkhya means?
Me? No, I don't.
Yeah, I'm putting you in a hot seat. No,
Oh,
I do.
I failed the hot seat today, my friends. Samkhya.
No problem. Samkhya.
No
It means
idea.
to count. It means to count. So, and we're going to read about that in coming chapters. But there's a way, when it says to count, what you're counting is the material ingredients in this world, right? What this world is built out of. Just like we have a periodical table, right? It's kind of counting. I don't know how many elements in the periodical table, but it's something like 200 something, right? And you can count them. Yeah. And so similarly, we can break down the world into some basic categories, look at them, and understand that I'm not any of those categories. I'm something else, right? I'm this conscious being that's not built out of any combination of material ingredients. That's really where it's meant to lead. That my nature is blissful, and there's nothing external that's going to give me satisfaction. So it's a way of freeing oneself of material desires through analysis. Sometimes when Prabhupada talks about it, he'll use the word speculation. I'm not sure if he'll do that in this commentary, but let's see. So he goes on. Everyone in this material world engages in achieving the fruits of their labor. A person tries to be happy by achieving the fruits of their own honest labor, but actually they become more and more entangled. Right? We think that here's the how the equation adds up. That my senses become pleased by certain external things. Let me work hard so that I can get the money to get the external things that I want. Then when my senses are pleased, I'll be pleased. But as we're saying, those senses are not us. It's this not a false ego that has us tied to the body, has us tied to identifying with the body and the senses. And so there's a flaw in that equation, right? There's a flaw in thinking that when I satisfy my senses, I will be satisfied. And so this philosophy is to help us get to the bottom of that. So he goes on, one cannot get out of this entanglement unless they have perfect knowledge or devotional service, right? Or bhakti. That kind of grants this type of detachment. You with me?
I'm listening.
Okay, you're listening. Taking it in?
I'm drinking it up.
Okay. So Prabhupada continues, those who are trying to get out of the entanglement by speculation, by this type of analysis, are also doing their best. But in Vedic scriptures, we find that if one is taken to devotional service of the Lord and Krishna consciousness, right? If one practices Bhakti-yoga, if one adds to that analysis or even kind of even transcends that analysis through devotional connection to God, that they can very easily uproot the deep-rooted desires for fruitive activity. So it kind of grants everything that they now say it's a hard path, right? Jnana yoga.
I've never done it. Like, I don't know, but it sounds like a hard. I think whenever you don't get that sweet Krishna in your life, like there is a spiritual high you get from practicing the yoga system, a detachment from worldly things. But for me, from what I know in Bhakti, is it's not just like, yeah, the material world is bad. It's like Krishna is good. Krishna is wonderful. There's like this sweet, uplifting, almost like a fever you get for Krishna that like sort of like sweeps you out of the material world. It's not just like everything is peaceful now. There's like actually a deep joy and enjoyment in Bhakti that I don't think is explained or is even there in Bhakti. It's not just negation of pain.
Right.
It is.
And that inner joy means like without even any effort, I stopped searching after external joy. Right? It's so real and so tangible that you ought to, so that therefore, you know, like right at the beginning of Bhagavatam, when we started, you know, in the second chapter, after Sutta Goswami mentions to the sages in the forest, they asked him, what's the highest dharma? What brings the deepest Atma supersidity, right? What brings the complete satisfaction to the soul? And he said it's Bhakti-yoga. And then the natural question one might ask for these sages who are like learned yogis and all that, well, what about knowledge and detachment, right? What about understanding things so clearly that you renounce all the things of this world? And he said, and then he quoted that famous verse, Vasudeve Bhagavati.
Bhakti-yoga prayojitaha.
Yes. Janayat yasu vairagyam. Jnanam Chayara Hoitakam. Yeah, which means, the translation of that is by rendering devotional service, by practicing bhakti, by developing attachment to God, like genuine, real emotions and feelings, that one immediately, automatically acquires knowledge and detachments from the material things of this world. It just, you don't even have to, you know, those Jnana yogis work hard for it. They renounce the things of this world. It's hard, it's painful, it's austere. But as you're saying, when you get that taste, that sweet baby Krishna, right? When you feel a little bit of genuine affection, when that arises in the heart, you know, and it will, you know, it arises in the heart, then you let go of those things. You know, they no longer interest you.
Can I share something crazy?
Yeah,
I knew this mystical guy in South India.
Okay.
And he was part of this whole ashram. He was a young guy, very beautiful guy, total mystic guy. I kid you not. But anyway, he wasn't living with his wife. I said, "Where's your wife?" He goes, "She lives." You know, they do this a lot. And they're like, "Oh, she lives. I don't see her. She, you know, I see her like on holidays or something. I work for like 8 months. Then I come back." I said, "Do you have any children?" He said, "Yes. In my tradition," this was not a Vaishnava tradition. He was like some type of mystic. He said, "In my tradition, we have children and we give them to the ashram." I was like, "What?" He goes, "You give your children to the ashram?" He's like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, we give them to the ashram and they're raised as sannyasis." I was like, "Why would you give your children to the ashram?" It was like a really, I thought that was like a really obvious question. Why would you give your children to the ashram? I said, "Do you see them?" He goes, "No, we never see them again. As soon as they're born, we give them to the ashram." And he said, I said, "Why would you do that?" And he gave a really short answer. He goes, "To develop detachment." And I thought, yeah, that's one way. That's one way to do it. In Bhakti Yoga, we don't do things. We don't give our children to the, I mean, you could. I thought about it a few times. But we don't give our children to the ashram like that. We actually raise the children, but we cultivate the knowledge that we don't possess the children. So there's still interaction in family life. And you could be a very high Bhakti yogi. We know a lot of people who practice family life that are very evolved souls. But the idea the entire time, I raise my children, I love my children, I have attachments to my children. But as we cultivate knowledge, we start to understand that I'm here to love them and I sacrifice for them. And I meant to tolerate sometimes. and I get the joy from them. I also feel the pain when they're in pain, but deeply I understand they have their own karma and I don't actually possess them. And I'm here to just like love them, give them whatever I can, and let them go in this world. And so we are naturally, like you were saying, detachment and renunciation come naturally within Bhakti Yoga without, putting your kid in the FedEx and shipping them to some ashram to be a sannyasi. You come naturally. You don't have to give up everything to learn the lessons of renunciation and vairagya.
It comes automatically.
It comes automatically.
Yeah, it'll come even without trying for it, right? Like even you're not making it your focus. It's such an interesting idea because there's so many, say, religious traditions or spiritual traditions where practically all of them, renunciation is glorified in a way. Even within our own tradition, in a sense, it is, right? But we put it in a certain context. That renunciation itself isn't the goal of spirituality. That letting go of everything material, which isn't the goal of spirituality. And often that type of thinking leads to kind of coldness or kind of hardness, which it sounds like maybe this person that you're speaking about was a little bit like that. Like you just
a little bit of a hardened heart. A little bit of a hardened heart.
A little bit of hardened heart. So yes, we want to become, but with bhakti, the idea is that renunciation and devotion, they rise at the same time. It's like it's a devotion that's carrying the renunciation with it. So you're becoming detached from the things of this material world, but not in the same, like there's no hardening of the heart there. There's actually a softening of the heart.
Sure.
So that you become detached. Even you have the children, even you love the children. It's the type of detachment that you're speaking about where I love them deeply, I care for them, I see it as my responsibility to care for them, but I also know, deep down within, I know that I don't possess them, that I don't control them, that ultimately, we're all spiritual beings moving towards our spiritual goal together. And that idea it really has like what I've seen in my years of few decades now of being involved in these kind of Eastern spiritual circles, that it's a very powerful transformational difference in that what it does to one's I would say what it does to one's character, what it does to one's heart, is really something unique and special. One of the special things about bhakti.
We can be in this world.
All right, should we read one more verse maybe and discuss?
I want to give my
go ahead,
analogy.
please.
Here's my analogy. Ready? I love this analogy.
Yeah,
it's
please.
Really
Yeah.
There are problems with attachment. Don't FedEx your kid, but there are problems with attachment. We start. I mean, some of us have had attached parents. We wanted to go do our own thing, and our parents were like, "No, you're going to be a lawyer, whether you like it or not." And we've had that attachment, or we're attached to a car, or attached to a car, or attached to a person, a home, and then we lose it. So when we lose the object of our attachment, we freak out, we break down. And so the idea in Eastern thought, be detached. So how do you balance that out? And so the Bhakti way is you're allowed to work in the world. If you understand it's not only yours, but it's God's. Suppose there's a lot of people who are very talented singers, or they have some fame. I mean, my big work in my life was I was famous as a kid. I was famous, but in the name of thinking, and you're thinking, well, this is a great thing. Not if it exacerbates your ego. Then it's a miserable thing. Then the very thing that appears like good karma or a gift makes you miserable. And this is like a real Rubik's Cube for a lot of people who are suffering with some good fortune. And so what they want to do is they end up renouncing these things that are actually wonderful gifts. We don't want to renounce our gifts. We take our gifts and we use them for God. I'm thinking of Bunky right now, Dr. Justin. This guy's got like such a beautiful voice. He's got like a wonderful, like heart-stopping, beautiful voice. And in some traditions, they'd say, like the tradition I was talking to you about, they just say, yes, your voice causes complications. You can offend people with your voices. You can gossip with your voices. In our tradition, we don't speak. And there are traditions, these Mona Bubbas, they just stop speaking. And that way you don't have to deal with the downside of your voice. Or if you got a beautiful voice, you don't get caught up in the ego of your voice, which makes people miserable. Ego ruins people. But on this path, we use the voice. People use their wealth. People use their charm. They use their musical talent. They take it like a teller in a bank takes money, right? They take the money and they give it to the bank. Thousands, millions of dollars can run through the teller's hands, but the teller never claims that that is theirs. They give it right to the bank. They put it right in the vault. So in the same way that in Bhakti-yogi, we use our talent, we use our skills, we use our charisma, our intelligence. We have Gadadhar, the scientist, is using his scientific, but it's not for his ego. We're handing it right back to Krishna. And therefore, you're not...
Put it in the vault.
Put it in the vault! You're not, and it's really true, it's for your own benefit. You're not getting implicated in the arrogance and the pain that comes with arrogance and ego. But truthfully, if I suppose I'm very, very famous and I take 2% of that, right? Fame for my ego. That's okay. You can do that. You just suffer 2%. You suffer. Like for the teller's taking millions, but I take $10 and put it in my pocket. That's a crime. And you're going to have to pay for that.
Huge crime, but it's a crime.
It's a crime. Yeah.
But what does it speak if you take 2 million?
Yeah. So to the degree that I take as mine for my ego, you can do that. You can take those gifts and use them for your ego. People do it every day. I know in my own life, when I do that, I suffer tremendously. Someone asked me that question yesterday. Wow, because we were watching that video of Shelter tour video from 1992, and everyone's just screaming and going. And one of the nice devotees there said, "What's it like when you get off stage?" And I said, truthfully, if I'm doing it in the mood of service, I'm completely peaceful on stage and off stage, even though I'm jumping around. If I do it in the mood of this is for me, this is about me, this is for my ego, then I get off stage and I feel a gaping hole in my heart because you can't put enough of that patting on the back, you're the best. There's never enough that will fill that hole. And so it makes you miserable and lonely. And I understand why people who have fame or importance in the material world, why they become addicted to drugs or sex addiction or alcoholism, because you can't fill that hole in the heart. So we're training to give it all back to God. It's God's gifts anyway. Give it to God. Don't hide your gift. Some people think, well, I just got to hide my gift. No, don't hide your gift. Take that gift out of the closet, brush it off, use it. You got a gift. No one else has that gift. Use that gift. But use it for Krishna or use it for God. Don't use it for your ego. That's different.
Put it in the vault.
Put it in the vault. Put your gift in the vault.
All right. Well, I think with that, we've run out of time, Raghunath. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you, my friend. And we will reconvene tonight at the Kirtan.
Right.
We're having Kirtan tonight in Berlin. We're really excited. I want to thank Banu Nandini for setting that up, and all our
She's
friends.
setting up everything for us.
Look at her. She's setting stuff up right now.
She's got her sunglasses on. She's just like, it's no problem. I can set stuff up like this left and right.
This is normal for me. I'm just setting stuff. And tomorrow's a holy day. The origin of all goddesses. It's the appearance of Sri Radha tomorrow. It's going to have a special show tomorrow. Dude.
All right. Yeah, I think in New York, like in America, I think it's today actually, but over here it'll be tomorrow. So
okay, we're gonna
just so people
tomorrow.
understand. Yeah,
we're gonna get a little bleed over. It's all lunar calendar stuff.
All right.
Whatever. What's our takeaways? I want to takeaways, Mara.
Oh yeah, takeaways.
Right.
Takeaways.
Yeah. When you find great souls, it makes any place great.
Boom.
When you do external rituals, it has an internal effect on you.
Boom, boom.
Yeah.
Truck stripes won't destroy your spiritual life.
But take it easy on them, though. That's all.
Spiritual knowledge vanquishes the knot in the heart. You don't need to give your children to the ashram to cultivate detachment.
Sometimes doing that.
Although sometimes it helps.
We own nothing. My real investment is in my spiritual growth. Be like the bank teller, put it in the vault for Krishna. Don't FedEx your kids. and give your gift back to Krishna.
Boom. That was great. Beautiful. Thanks everybody for joining us. Here's the music.
And, I would be playing right now, but somehow it's just not showing up. Oh, here we go. Got it.
Technically. Thanks everybody.
We've had a really tough day today. Technically, we apologize for that.
If you like what we're doing, I want you to go to Apple Podcasts right now and write a review. And while you're writing us a review, tell us your story, how you got here. When you give us good reviews, it helps us, I don't know, get higher rankings or something like that. So go there, give us a 5-star review, and tell us your journey home. We want to hear how you got here and how the Bhagavatam has been shaping your life. Wisdom of the Sages is community supported. You give whatever donation you like, and you can join our Patreon community. It's like a Patreon party we have, which includes our Bhakti 12-step recovery group. Go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages. That's it. Patreon.com/wisdom of the sages. Send your questions to Mara for Q&A day. Wisdom of the sages 108@gmail.com. There we go.
Just in time, it came loaded up. All right, people.
Yeah, we're gonna dance in the car or the street? We dance in the street here. Oh, we're in a really famous area. I'm gonna unplug this. Wait till you see where I am. This is a famous Berlin. What's it called? Depends on the